Thank you guys for joining us for our third session of our hand and dexterity workshop. I know we've got some new folks joining us today, so before we get started, I'll just go over a few of the housekeeping items that we spoke about when we first started the session. So hopefully you can all see me and hear me. And if I draw your attention to the right side of your screen, you should be able to see a chat box that's popped up. If you don't see a chat box, it might be a collapsed icon at the bottom of your screen, which sort of looks like a little blue circle. If you click on it, it should open up the chat box if it's collapsed for you. The reason I'm drawing your attention to the chat box is because if you did want to ask me any questions or communicate with me during the session, you will have to do so through the chat box. So we've disabled everybody's mic, so I can't hear you if you're talking to me. And part of the reason is because we have quite a large attendance list, and you can imagine if everybody's microphones are on, it'll probably get a little bit distracting at some point. So if you did want to ask me any questions or communicate with me, you can do so through the chat box, which hopefully you'll find. And you'll see also at the very top of the chat box, there is our email pinned to the top. So it's info@parkinson.bc.ca. And the reason I pinned it there is just so if you wanted to drop us an email after the class about any questions, you're welcome to do so, and then I'll do my best to answer them. Hi, great to see you. Okay, and for today, for our hand and dexterity class, for those who are new to the session, because it is a hand class, we're going to be sitting down the whole class. So we won't need any standing. You'll just need your chair to sit in, and ideally, if you have no armrest on your chair, that would be best, just so that way you won't accidentally hit your elbow or something like that as we go on. Oh, okay. Got some comments here that you can't hear me. Let me check here. It looks like my microphone is on. Hopefully, some of you can hear me. I'm not sure what's going on. It might be worth, if I'm freezing, try to see if you can refresh your browser. So that sometimes works when you refresh the browser, because it does happen occasionally when there are lots of people in the webinar room. It can be a little bit slow, or you can try to close down any of the other browsers or applications you might have if it's slowing down the internet a little bit. Okay, there are some people who can hear me. Okay, perfect, great. So my name is Shelly. I'm a neurophysiotherapist and a staff member at Parkinson Society. You've probably seen me before in some of our various exercise programs out there. So don't be a stranger. If you have any questions, you can feel free to type in the chat box, and I'll do my best to answer them as we go along. But before we start today, I did get a couple of emails with some people mentioning about their various injuries or issues that they have with their hand. And one of the things that was brought up was carpal tunnel. So I just want to bring that up just in case anybody else is suffering from that. So with carpal tunnel, what you can try to do is you can try, when you're doing the exercises, try not to move the wrist too much. So if you keep your wrist in a flat position, that usually helps alleviate the carpal tunnel symptoms. So carpal tunnel is when you have inflammation in the carpal tunnel region where your median nerve is compressed or irritated. So you tend to have issues, so tingling in the first 3 fingers and half of your ring finger as well. So if you keep your wrist immobilized, that would help. So if you have a splint that you want to wear, by all means, you can have a splint on, just so that way your wrist is nice and flat. So you can still do the finger stuff, which it might feel a little bit more restricted, but you can still do them, right? All the finger stuff we do in the class, just without the wrist moving. Okay, someone else said no audio. I'm just going to type in here in case they can't hear me. So click on my video screen and the audio should start. So that can sometimes happen as well. When there's no audio, if you click on the main screen, the audio will start, just in case some folks can't hear me. Okay, so yes, so that's the bit about carpal tunnel. You can still try the class, keep your wrists immobilized if you would like, and see if that helps, okay? Because any kind of movement this way or that way is going to make your carpal tunnel hurt. So anytime we do any of those wrist stretches, don't do those. But any of the finger exercises, you can just have your wrist in a flat position. You were told to stretch your wrist. Okay, so when you stretch your wrist, it will bring on your carpal tunnel symptoms a little bit more because carpal tunnel is inflammation through here. So for the sake of the hand dexterity exercise to make things more comfortable for you, immobilize the wrist and don't stretch it, okay? If you wanted to do some gentle stretching, you're welcome to, but if it's really hurting you and bothering you, but you want to do the hand exercises, immobilize the wrist for the sake of the class, just to make things a little bit more comfortable for you. But it's absolutely up to you. It's your body, so listen to your body and what it's telling you to do. What you're also going to need today is you're going to need a little tea towel. So for people who are new to the class, we've got a little tea towel that we use in the class, and we also have a little cushion, so a little pillow like so. Doesn't have to be this exact shape, but something small that we can use for today. Next class, we're going to need a rubber band as well, which I know was in the class description when you signed up. But for today, just the towel and the cushion will be good. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to move my chair back for our warm-up so you can see me. So for those who are new today, in the last two sessions, we spoke about doing a warm-up for our back, our arms, our neck, before we do the hand dexterity exercises. The reason being everything is connected. So if you wanted to do exercise for your hand, it's always a great idea to warm up the arm in general. Okay, so I've moved back so you can see me. We're going to start by sitting at the fronts of our chairs. So we're going to make sure we're not leaning back or slouching in any way, because you can imagine if I'm slouching, my shoulders are pretty closed in. So anything I do is going to be pretty tough. So we want to make things easier for ourselves. And we're going to sit at the fronts of our chairs, back nice and straight. You can have those arms dangling by your side. We're going to imagine the crown of the head reaching up to the ceiling. Good. From here, we're going to start with our shoulder rolls. So we're going to start by bringing our shoulders up to our ears and then rolling them back. Same thing again. Up to the ears and then rolling back. So nice and gentle, just getting the tops of our shoulders activated. Really think about that circular motion you're doing with the shoulders, rolling them back. Good, nice and gentle. On the next one, you're going to start adding in those elbows as you roll the shoulder back. So you're going to keep rolling the shoulders, but just get your elbows involved. So almost like you're drawing a bit of a circle with your elbow. Nice and gentle. Doesn't have to be quick. We're just trying to warm things up. Are we still sitting up nice and tall? Good. And then on the next one, we're going to get the whole arm involved. So we're going to circle the entire length of the arm around. And if you're somebody with some shoulder issues, just be a little bit careful. If your shoulders are hurting you, don't have to go quite as far up. You can go out to the side if you like. So just as far as you feel comfortable. It doesn't necessarily have to be all the way up overhead if you feel your shoulders are giving you a little bit of a struggle. Good, let's do two more. Really trying to get the shoulder blades moving. Good, and relax the arms. Still sitting up nice and tall. We're going to bring our chin down towards our chest nice and gently. And then from here, you're going to do a bit of a semicircle with your neck. Just the bottom ranges here. Rolling your head from side to side. Take your time, so don't go too quick. We want to take our time with some of these stretches here. Rolling the neck from side to side. Thinking about drawing a circle with your head here. Just the bottom half of the circle for now. Good. Still sitting up nice and tall, right? Good. On the next one, you're going to do a full circle all the way behind the head as well, in one direction to start with. So think about drawing, almost like you're drawing a circle with the crown of your head. So it's almost like if you had a flashlight coming out the top of your head, you're kind of drawing big circles in the ceiling here, getting all the bits of the circle. So we're not drawing an oval or a square, but a full circle. Good. Let's reverse towards the other side this time. Big circle all the way around. One more. Still sitting up nice and tall. And rest there. Good. From here, we're going to float both arms up in front of us like so. And then you're going to practice squeezing those shoulder blades together and reaching those elbows back, almost like you're trying to pull those elbows in together and then reach them forward again. So still sitting up nice and tall, neck nice and long. So we don't want the shoulders up here. We want the shoulders far away from those earlobes. And you're going to squeeze the elbows together, squeeze the shoulder blades together into our reverse rows. This is a really good one for your upper back to make sure we're not always in a stooped forward curved position. We want to get the back muscles activated as well. Elbows nice and wide. Good. Let's do two more here. Squeezing the shoulder blades together, sitting up nice and tall, neck nice and long. I know, lots to think about already. One more. Good, and relax the arms. Okay, we're going to now do our sensory warm-up. We're gonna stick one arm out in front of us, palm facing down. Taking your other hand, you're gonna start at the shoulders, and you're gently going to squeeze all the way down the arm towards the fingers. So what we're doing here is just stimulating our nerve endings in our arm, just to wake them up and draw some attention to our arm, getting the brain to recognize our arm is here. So that way when we start moving, things will be a little bit easier. So squeezing all the way back up the arm, all the way to the shoulder, and then down again, all the way down the arm. Just gently, not squeezing too hard. Just want to draw a little bit of attention to your arm. Stimulating those nerve endings. Don't forget about those fingers. Good, and all the way up the arm again. One more time. Squeezing down. Not forgetting about those fingers. And all the way back up. Good. Let's do the same thing on the other side. Starting at the shoulder, you're squeezing all the way down the arm, nice and gently, so you don't want to hurt yourself. We just want to wake up the arm a little bit. So we're not squeezing for dear life, but we're just giving a little bit of a gentle squeeze to get those nerve endings firing. And then back up again. Two more times in your own time. Good stuff. Still sitting up nice and tall, right? One more. I know sometimes as we go on in the class, we kind of forget about our posture and we start slouching a little bit or leaning forward a bit. So every now and then, if you Remember that you're supposed to be sitting up tall. Just gently nudge yourself back, fold the shoulders back, straighten up the spine, and then continue on. Okay, let's rest the arm. We're going to take our other arm up again. This time, you're going to tap all the way down the arm, down the back of the arm, gently tapping all the way to the back of the arm. Still trying to send some signals into those nerve endings, drawing some attention to our arm so our brain can remember that this arm is still here. Tapping all the way back up, nice and gentle, gentle taps. Little bit of sensory loading here. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side of the arm, so the inside of our arm this time, tapping all the way down to the palm, the fingers, nice and gentle. Good, one more. And rest. Same thing on the other side, back of the arm, tapping all the way down the arm. So you're not slapping yourself too hard, but nice and gentle taps just to load the nerve endings a little bit, get things to wake up a bit more. So that way, when we start doing our hand exercises, it'll be easier for your brain to control the movement. Good. And we're going to flip the hand over and do the same thing down the arm, the inside of the arm this time, not forgetting about those fingers. Good. And let's relax there. Okay, still sitting up nice and tall. We're going to bend those elbows, palm facing up like so. What you're going to do now is you're going to use your forearm and you're going to turn the palm down. So see if I lift my arms up. So my arm stays pretty still. It's just rotating on its axis. Okay, so that's what we're doing. So we're keeping the elbows bent and you're rotating the palms down as far as you can, holding it for a stretch for just a couple seconds, and then rotating the other way as far as you can. So it's really important that you keep your elbows bent, because bending your elbow and doing this movement is not the same as straightening your arm and doing this movement. When I straighten my arm and I turn, I'm actually turning from up here in the shoulder, whereas if you bend it, the movement is coming solely from your forearm, which is what we're looking for. So we're not doing the shoulder right now. We're just getting the forearm to rotate. And you might find that in one direction might feel more stiff than the other direction, and that's okay. Just try to hold whichever side feels a little stiffer, just for a few extra seconds before rotating the other way. So it's important for us to have this kind of range of movement in our elbow and our forearm, just because if you can imagine the different functional movements we use our hands for, it's not just the hand and fingers. A lot of it is our wrist and our forearm. So such as opening a jar, you have that forearm kind of motion as well. So it's kind of good to just get everything moving. Good. Okay, last bit here, we're going to take one of our hands. If you're somebody with carpal tunnel, maybe don't do this one, or you can do it gently if you like, but I don't want you to aggravate your symptoms for the rest of the class, so just be a bit careful. But for the rest of us, we're going to hold the arm up and we're going to do a gentle wrist stretch like so. So you're going to bring your hand down one way, taking your other hand, gently press down a little bit further, not so much so that you hurt yourself, but just a little bit further. So you get more of a stretch down the back of your forearm here. And then we bring it back up. Same thing in the other direction, bringing that wrist down, taking your other hand, gently pressing down just a little bit further, stretching the inside of the forearm this time. And bring it back up. Let's do one more on each side. Palm facing down, taking your other hand, gently pressing down just a tiny bit further, being careful not to hurt yourself. And back up. Same thing, other side. flipping the wrist down, and then we're going to press down nice and gently. And rest. Okay, let's do the same thing on the other arm. Gently pressing down, palm facing towards the floor. If you would like, add that little bit of overpressure with your other hand. Make sure it's nice and gentle so you don't hurt yourself. And bring it back up. Good, same thing in the other direction, bringing that wrist back, taking your hand, gently pressing down just a little bit more so you get that stretch on the inside of your forearm. Good. Bring it back up. One more time in each direction, palm facing down. Using your other hand, gently pressing down. And then bring it back up. And then backwards. Gently pressing down. Bring it back up and relax. Okay, I'm going to come closer now so we can start our hand exercises. So we're going to use both of our hands to start with, and we're going to hold them up in front like so. So you can't see right now, but I have a table in front of me. So by all means, if you don't want to be lifting up your arm the whole time, you can feel free to rest them on a table in front. You're going to start with the hand open, and we're going to practice our squeezes. So just to warm up those fingers a little bit more, we're going to squeeze in, hold the fist, see if you can squeeze as hard as you can for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then opening the hand up as wide as you can. So wide that you want your skin to be stretching to its max. And then again, squeezing in as hard as you can, holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and open and stretching as wide as you can. And again, pulling and squeezing 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and opening as wide as you can. Last one, pulling and squeezing 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and open up as wide as you can. Good, and rest. Okay, taking one of our hands, we're going to start with our finger and thumb opposition exercise, where we're adding on today. So let's just do one round of a basic finger and thumb opposition. So like this, keeping your fingers nice and wide, keeping your palm nice and open. You're going to touch the tip of your index finger to your thumb without the other fingers doing this, right? No curling in. Keep them as straight and as wide as you can. And then you're going to open back up. Now you're going to go middle finger touching your thumb without the fingers curling in. So keeping them nice and open. And then open back up. Same thing, ring finger, tip of ring finger, reaching for the thumb, the rest of the finger up as high as you can, and then open back up. Same thing with the little finger touching the thumb, trying to keep all the other fingers as wide and as straight as you can, and then you're going to open back up. Same thing in reverse, little finger touching the thumb, keeping all the other fingers up nice and tall, and open back up. Ring finger touching the thumb, keeping all the other fingers as long and as wide as possible, and then opening back up. Middle finger touching the thumb, keep the other fingers nice and open if you can, then open back up. And then the index finger touching the thumb, the rest of the fingers staying upright, and open back up. Good. Okay, adding on. So I know we've done this one for the last couple weeks, so we're going to add on. From here, we're going to do the same finger and thumb opposition, except we're adding in a pattern. So you're going to touch the index finger to the thumb once, and then open back up. Then you're going to touch the middle finger to the thumb twice, and open back up. You're going to touch the ring finger to the thumb 3 times, Open back up. Touch the little finger to the thumb 4 times. And open back up. Reverse. Little finger to the thumb once. Open back up. Ring finger to the thumb twice. Open back up. Middle finger to the thumb 3 times. Open back up. Index finger to the thumb 4 times. And open back up. Okay? Same thing again. Start with the index finger in your own time, touching once, then twice, then 3 times, then 4 times. And then in reverse, touching once, touching twice, 3 times, and 4 times. Feel free to do this slower if you like. You don't have to do it quite at my speed. But the really important thing you want to remember here is as you're tapping your fingertips, make sure the rest of your fingers are still staying upright. So they're not curving in, and you're not closing your hand, but you want to keep everything upright. Keeping those fingers nice and wide as well. If you feel like this is not as challenging as you'd like it to be, by all means, you can feel free to speed it up as much as you want. But making sure if you do speed it up, you keep all your fingers upright. So I don't want to see you tap, and then as you tap, the fingers get smaller and smaller, and you're like this, right? So when you're tapping, keep all the fingers upright. For multiple touches, do I bring the finger back to start each time? Yes. So every time you tap, I want you to open back up. So if you don't open fully, that's okay as well. You can open halfway, but try to go as wide as you can. So what I don't want to happen is you're tapping and then you're like this. So see here how I'm doing a barely moving kind of tap? It's important that every time you tap, you open. Okay, so it doesn't have to be fully, but I almost want you to exaggerate the opening a little bit more, just so we avoid this kind of oscillation on the spot. Great question. So you'll notice that we're only doing one hand right now, because you can imagine if we're doing both hands together, it's probably lots to think about. Making sure there's a nice gap between your fingers. So these ones here, make sure they're nice and open. We're not closing the fingers. Good. Wherever you are, let's finish up the round that you're in, and then we'll move on to the other hand. Good. When you're done, shake out the hand, give yourself a bit of a rest on that side, because I know your hand can actually get pretty sore from doing these movements. And then when you're ready, you're going to start with the other hand, doing the exact same thing. If you want, you can start with doing the basic one first, where you tap once for everything, just to start with, to get those fingers going. And then whenever you're ready, you can add in the combination of the tapping once, twice, 3 times, and 4 times. But you can start with the basic one first, where everything taps once, and then add in the combination whenever you're ready. Making sure that your technique is good, so we're keeping all the fingers upright and all of them separated at the bases, right? So we don't want them sticking in. You want to keep the fingers nice and wide. And then when you're ready, you can add in the combination. Well done. Make sure you also reverse. I know it's a little bit of more thinking involved here when you're adding in different number of taps while also still trying to keep the hand in a nice wide open posture. Let's do a quick mental check with your spine. Are you still sitting up nice and tall, or are we starting to do this? Yeah, good. As you can probably tell, as the class progresses, things get a little bit harder. So with every week, we kind of add on a bit more and make the exercises we've done in the previous week just a little bit harder. Good, well done, everybody. Really try to keep those fingers open. So a lot of the times when we do hand dexterity exercises, the main point is to try to have your body be able to separate or isolate selective muscles, selective fingers that you want to move, and that's what makes up your hand dexterity. A question here is it okay to have your hand face you rather than out? Yes. If you want to turn your hand this way, that's absolutely fine as well. So you can look at it. Yeah, absolutely. As long as we keep our fingers up and we're not going like this in front of us. The main reason I have it facing you guys is so you can see it, but by all means, you can have it face yourself. But if you were to practice the exercises at home, what you can also do is you can actually face a mirror, and then you can use the mirror as a sort of visual feedback if you like to see it from both sides. Okay, whichever round you're on, I'm going to get you to finish off, and then you're going to shake your hand out when you're done that round that you're currently on. Okay, shake it out when you're done. We're going to bring our other hand up for our next exercise. So this exercise here is the one that we spoke about in previous weeks where you're imagining it's like you're pressing your hand against like a shop window and you're looking in the shop window. You're having your hand nice and flat. So imagine it's on a surface. If doing a free hand like this is really hard, actually put your hand down on a surface, like on a table. You can practice these movements because sometimes sliding your fingers along something is a bit easier. But here's the movement for people who are new. You're going to get your fingers to be squeezing in together, palms nice and flat, fingers straight. From here, I want you to imagine your hand is pressed against a glass window and you're sliding the first web space open. And then you're squeezing it back in without the hand cupping like so, right? You want to keep it flat because against a imaginary glass window. And then you want to do the same thing with the next space over, squeezing the other fingers together, but opening that space only. And then bring it back in, keeping the hand nice and flat. Next space over, same thing, keeping all the other fingers squeezing together, only open the selected space, hand nice and flat against that imaginary shop window. And then the last space here, and back in. Same thing in reverse. So this is our basic finger exercise here. We're going to add on in a moment. And then the next space over, making sure all the other fingers are squeezing together. We're not doing this or this. We're not curving everything in. I know this one's pretty tough. Then the next space over, keeping that palm nice and flat, the fingers nice and flat, and the last space over. Good. Now, you can either choose to stay with the basic movement, or if you want a bit of a challenge, we're going to add the same pattern to this exercise. So we're going to open the first space once and back in. The next space twice and back in. The next space 3 times and back in. The last space 4 times. All the while trying to keep all your other fingers nice and straight. So I don't want to see them curling in or bending like this. Try to keep them nice and flat if you can. Same thing in reverse. Once, twice, 3 times, keeping all your other fingers together, right? Only the space you actually want to separate is moving. And then 4 times. Do we hate this one yet? This one's pretty hard, I know. But same as the other one, as you're doing this pattern, make sure that you're opening each time, right? So we're not going like this for our little openings, but we're going nice and big for each of those openings, okay? 3 times. And 4 times. If your hand is getting a little bit sore as you're doing this exercise, you can feel free to have a break and you can shake out the hand. You can use your other hand to rub it a little bit if you like. What you can do is in between each of your finger bones, that's the muscle you're working on. So you can press on it in between each of the bones here. Press on the muscles there just to relax it a little bit, okay, if it's getting too sore. So someone's question is, my thumb is slightly forward of my hand. Is that okay? Try your best to get your thumb to be flat. So if your thumb is like this, I'm exaggerating. It's probably not like that, but if it's further forward, try to have it flat, right? Because the whole point is we're trying to work on, you've got these bones. In between the bones, there's the little muscles in between each of the bones, the fleshy part. That's what we're trying to work on, okay? And in the fingers as well. So try your best to have the hand flat, because once your hand is more cupped like so, you're actually working on something a little bit different. So we want to try our best to have the hand flat. If you can't quite get it flat, that's okay. Put it on a table or on a wall in front of you, and pressing it against something to do the exercise might help a little bit. How are we doing with this one? I know this one's pretty difficult. It's already difficult without having to add in these numbers. Well done, everybody. So finish off whatever round you're in, and then you can shake out the hand, or if it's really sore, press down in between each of the finger bones to the fleshy bit, just to release the muscle a little bit if you like. You don't have to, but if you feel like it's really cramping, you can press in it or shake it out just to relax it. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side, trying to get the hand as flat as you can, including the thumb. So don't let the thumb come in. Open that thumb nice and flat. And then you're going to do the same thing. Start with the basic one if you like. So just one time opening for each of these spaces, just to get the fingers and hand warmed up, and then we can add in the numbers. Or if you like, you can jump straight into the numbers if you would like. Whatever works for you. As long as you're trying to keep all the other fingers squeezing together, so the fingers that aren't supposed to be moving, keep them squeezing in. Keep the fingers nice and long, the hand nice and flat, as if it's sliding against a shop window. And then when you're ready, you can add in the combination. Feel free to do this at a speed that works for you, so don't have to match what I'm doing. Take your time, as long as we're getting the right technique. I'd rather you go slower than to do it so fast. Your fingers start to do this, your hands start to curl in. So it's better if you do it slower, if you can control the movement a little bit better. And then once you find this is getting easier, of course, by all means, you can speed it up. How's our posture? Are we slouched? So make sure you're still sitting up nice and tall. Get the crown of the head to the ceiling. Absolutely. If you need to use your other hand to help, so If you're finding that they just won't separate and you need your hands to squeeze some fingers together to stop them from opening like that, absolutely, or to help open, as long as you're not doing it passively completely, right? So as long as you're not just relaxing the hand and then using the other side to open, but you want to make sure the hand is moving with you as you try to help it open, absolutely. And you'll probably find that if they won't open, they'll start smaller, so the movement will be smaller, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be as wide as what I'm doing. It's absolutely fine to have the movement smaller initially. It does get better with practice, I promise. So again, if this is really hard, doing it with your hand just holding up like this, you can try having your hand against the wall, against the table, against the window, whatever you can to just press your hand and you kind of slide your finger along that surface instead. It might be a little bit easier just because it gives you some more tactile feedback, and that's absolutely fine. Sorry, tactile feedback meaning touch feedback. Good, well done, everybody. So we're gonna just finish off whatever round you're in. Take your time, don't rush. Whatever round you're currently doing, just finish that one and then you can shake out your hand and then we'll move on. I know we could do this all day and practice it all day, but unfortunately, we don't have all the time in the world. Okay, and then shake it out, or you can squeeze in between the bones to just help release those tight muscles or sore muscles if you like. Someone says, find it easier with the hand on the surface. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so our next one, we're going to use our tea towel. So you can see here, I've got my towel. So make sure it's not a huge bath towel, because as you'll see in a second, if you're using a bath towel, this exercise won't work very well. But you're gonna hold on to the corner of the towel like this with one of your hands. Maybe start with a hand that you didn't just practice on, just so it gets a little bit of a break. Hold on to the corner, palm facing down. You're going to scrunch up the towel into your hands with just your fingers, palm facing down. So we're not using gravity like this to try to throw and grab, right? Keep your palm facing down. Use your fingers to kind of pull and suck up the towel, scrunch it up into your hand as much as you can, making sure you're moving all the fingers so we're not having some fingers trapped underneath the towel. And then when you can't go anymore and you scrunch it up into as small of a ball as you can, obviously take your time, don't do it as fast as I am, but I'm just going ahead to explain the exercise. Once you have it in a ball like this, what I want you to do is I want you to throw and catch the towel in the same hand like this. Okay, so I'm throwing and I'm catching in the same orientation. So you scrunch up the towel like this with the palm facing down. Then when you throw, same thing, palm facing down and catching palm facing down. So I don't want you to catch like this or like this. Okay, we want to throw and catch downwards like this. Try it again. Start with the corner, scrunching up the towel as much as you can, sitting up nice and tall. Okay, and then when you can't scrunch up anymore, when it's as small as you can make the towel, you're gonna throw and catch downwards, okay? And then start from the beginning again. Take your time. I know I did the demonstration a little bit fast, but I just wanted to do it faster just so that way you can see what to expect. But feel free to do it in your own time. You don't have to rush. So for those who may be struggling with scrunching the towel, you can use a table. So see how I have a table? If you like, you can use a table and scrunch up against the table, because once you have something that you're pressing against, it's easier because the towel doesn't move once you scrunch it. And then lift it up, throw and catch, same thing, and then leave it on the table to scrunch up again. But by all means, if you can do it without the table, that's even better because it's harder. But as you can see, what I'm doing here is I'm using my fingers to pull things into my palm, and then I take my thumb and then I kind of hold. I take my thumb and I hold whatever material is already there to release my other finger so they can move in again. And then I take my thumb out and hold it again. So it doesn't have to be exactly like that, where you're scrunching the towel in the same technique. But if you're really stuck, that might be something to think about, having your thumb move separately to the rest of your fingers if you like. Or you can have your thumb pulling in fabric and then using your fingers to hold it there while your thumb pulls in more fabric, whatever works for you. If you're new to this class today and you haven't done the first two classes because you were on a waiting list or you just joined, and this is very hard for you, it might be worthwhile going to our YouTube channel and looking at our hand and dexterity recording from the first two classes, just so you can practice some of the basic techniques if you like. Because as you can imagine, with the series, as the series goes on, with each class, we make things harder and harder. We kind of build on some of these basic skills we learned from the beginning. So if you missed the first two classes and you want to revisit them on YouTube, by all means, please feel free. If you're not sure where to find that, you can send us an email and we can send you the link for the playlist of the YouTube videos. Let's do one more on this side and then we're going to switch hands. Good, and rest. Shake out that arm. Okay, same thing with the other side. Whenever you're finished, you're gonna hold on to the corner again. Same thing, palm facing down, using the fingers and the the thumb, since you only have one, to scrunch up the towel into your palm as much as you can. So get the towel to be as small of a ball as you can, trying to get all of the fingers involved. And then when you can't scrunch it up anymore, you're going to throw and catch with the hand in the same orientation. So you throw with the palm facing down like this, you throw like this, and then you catch in the same orientation. You throw and catch in the same orientation with your palm facing down. Still sitting up nice and tall. You might find that the scrunching is harder than the throwing and catching, or you might think the throwing and catching is harder than the scrunching. Either way, we're working on the hand dexterity and then sort of the speed and the function of the hand as well as you throw and catch, but also the hand-eye coordination. So we're kind of ticking lots of boxes here with this one. You'll probably also find that one side is a little bit easier than the other, and that's okay. That's very normal, especially if you find that your Parkinson affects one hand more than the other, which usually does. So no worries there. You can just practice a little bit more on one hand. And it might be that on one of your hands, you're able to do the exercise freely like this. And on the other one, you might have to do it against a table. And that's absolutely okay as well. Work with whatever level you've got because it'll only improve if you practice, right? So no worries. Don't be frustrated if you find this really tough because this exercise is hard anyway. Well done, everybody. If your hand's getting a little bit sore, feel free to just shake it out for a little bit. Let your hand rest and then come back to it if you like. So someone says my tremor shows up when I do these exercises. Yes. So one of the things with tremors is you'll probably find when you do any form of exercise, a tremor tends to worsen temporarily. That's very normal. When you get more fatigued, your tremor tends to show up. So unfortunately, there's not much you can do about it. You can just work through the tremor. So even with the tremor present, still try to move these fingers and do these functional exercises, because as your muscles get stronger, you'll feel less fatigued, and then your tremor won't be as severe each time you do the exercise. But with Parkinson's, no matter what exercise you do, whether it's hand and dexterity or a full body exercise class, your tremor will always be worse near the middle or the end of the class because of fatigue. And then it goes away once you rest up again. So that's very, very normal. And don't let that deter you from exercising. I know it can be a bit annoying in the moment, but with rest, it gets better again. It goes back to its normal level. And then when you exercise again, fatigue shows up, so tremor shows up again. If it's really tired, you can have your elbow resting on something as you're scrunching, if that might help with some of the tremor if you're less tired. Or you can also shake out your hand a little bit and then come back to it. Let's do one last one on this side and then we'll move on. I know we're short on time, we've got 8 minutes. So finish off whichever one you're doing. And then leave the towel, shake out your hand, have a bit of a rest. And then next, we're going to use our pillow or our cushion here. So last time, we did a little bit of also a catch and release type movement with the hand. So we're going to add on to that. What we're going to do is we're going to start by holding on to the bottom corners of the cushion. So if your cushion at home is not a square like mine, that's okay. It doesn't have to be. Even if it's round, I just want you to hold on to the bottom edges of it. If it doesn't have edges, the bottom of the cushion is fine. So like this, I'm holding on to the bottom, and notice how my cushion is upright. It's not flat or kind of slanted, but it's in an upright vertical position, okay? Straight up and down is what you want it. So you want to hold it and balance it at a vertical position. Then from here, what you're going to do is you're going to open up, so you're going to open up the bottom hand to let the cushion fall with gravity, and then you're going to catch it again at the top of the cushion. So your hand is doing this and is not moving anywhere else. So as you're catching, notice how my arms, if I turn sideways, you can see my arms aren't doing this and they're not moving this way. You're keeping them in the same position. Can you see that? So I'm opening and then catching. So you're just doing this. Everything else stays completely still. It's kind of like that. Think robotic. So you're holding onto the bottom, make sure the pillow's not slanted, right? It's nice and vertical. And then all you're doing is you're releasing and catching again. So it's kind of that kind of grip you're working on. That long finger grip is what we're working on here, right? So we're not doing this. We're not doing this. We're doing a long fingered grip. Okay, like so. Okay. So long finger grip. Everything else stays the same. Just the hand opening and closing. So if I took away the cushion, if the cushion was invisible and I was doing the movement, it just looks like this. So I'm not moving my arms, but it's just like that, okay? Good. And if you would like more of a challenge for those who were here last week, and if you want to challenge yourself more, once you get to the top here, see if you can throw the pillow upwards vertically to catch the bottom and balance, okay? So let me do that again. So what we're doing here, you're opening and catching the top, keeping your arms relatively straight, and then see if you can throw and catch the bottom in the same grip with it being vertical. So from the side, yeah, you can see me there. Okay, and then you're throwing upwards and catching the bottom. See that? Throwing upwards. Oops, that wasn't a good repetition, but you're catching the bottom and trying to balance the pillow like that. Okay. So when the pillow drops and you're catching the top, your arms stay still. But of course, going the other way, you gotta throw. So your arms can't stay still, but you wanna try to keep the pillow upwards, okay? So don't let it fall horizontally or twist. Keep it vertical. So it's kind of like if your pillow was an elevator, it would go up and down like this, but it wouldn't flip the other way. So you're just trying to control your hands. Do we hate this one too? I know some of these exercises just get so hard as we go on in the series, but it's always good to challenge yourself, especially because you'll probably find as the weeks go on, when you do the same exercise over and over again, it does get easier. And so you want to keep challenging yourself. You never want to be in a comfortable position, because once you're comfortable with an exercise, it's probably not doing what you want it to do anymore. So you got to keep challenging yourself and make things a bit harder each time. So of course, the throwing upward version is optional, so you don't have to do that. If you're new to the class, please feel free to just keep your arms still and just do the catching, okay? Just doing the opening, catching the top corners. So you're just doing that grip, that long kind of finger grip with nothing else moving. Keep your spine nice and long. We're not curving over or leaning back or slouching to the side. Let's do a few more here. So if you do last three, and then we'll leave the cushion. You can throw it up if you like, you don't have to. And then when you're done, leave the cushion aside and have a rest. Okay, a question here is, which exercise is best for dropsies? I'm not sure what that means. What do you mean by dropsies? As in you drop something? Like things slip through your fingers? If so, then it would be things like grip strength. So it would be things like grip strength, so your ability to grip something tightly, but also your ability to conform your hand into the shape of the object you're gripping. So how I hold the pillow, you can see I'm getting my palm to conform to the object that I'm holding, right? And that's very different to if I was holding a mug like this, right? So anything you hold on to, you try to get as much surface area as possible. So I'm conforming my hand to the shape of the mug, or if I'm holding the handle, that's again different. You're conforming the shape of your hand to the mug. So for dropping things, you want to work on grip strength, but also your ability to conform your hand around an object. So you can practice gripping different objects, different shapes, trying to conform the hand along the object that you're gripping. Different shapes, right? Different shape of the object that you're holding gives your hand a different conformation. I just have lots of random objects on my table that I can demonstrate with, okay? So things like gripping, especially small things like pills. Yes, absolutely. So for pills, if you think about it, it's a little pinch grip usually. So you're either using these two fingers or these three fingers, and you tend to pick them up like that. So you can practice with things like pills, literally practice picking up pills, moving it to the other side, picking up pills, moving it to the other side, things like that. Practicing picking up beads, practicing picking up the back of an earring, earbuds, anything that's smaller, cotton wools even, cotton balls, sorry, not necessarily cotton wools, but cotton balls that you use in the bathroom, so anything smaller, trying to conform your finger to the shape. Same thing. When you're gripping a bigger object, you're conforming your hand to the shape of the object to get a good grip. When you're doing something smaller, you're conforming the tips of your finger to the object. So obviously the pen is big, but imagine if it was just the tip of the pen that I'm holding on. If that cap was the only thing I'm holding on to, same thing, you're conforming your finger to the object, because with the cap being this small, of course you wouldn't necessarily conform it to the palm, because that'd be kind of an awkward grip, but you can then conform your fingers to the shape. Exactly the same thing. So for grip, for precise grip, it's always conforming the shape of your hand or fingers to the object, depending on how big or small it is. So grip strength and practicing touching, grabbing different shaped materials to help conform the hand or the fingers, depending on how big and small. Okay, so last little bit, let's do a stretch to finish. We're gonna take our hand, we're gonna grab our fingers together like so. And all we're gonna do here, just be careful if you have carpal tunnel that you don't hurt yourself. Grab hold here, and you're just going to twist your wrist like so. So sort of like in a figure of 8. Imagine you're drawing a figure of 8 with your hands. Try to keep those elbows relatively close together if you can, just so we're not doing this, but it's just the wrist moving. Good, a few more. Good, and rest. From here, from the side, you're going to keep your wrist completely still. You're going to take your fingers and bring them backwards. So can you see that this movement, fingers, is not the same as this? So I'm not moving my wrist. I'm keeping my wrist still, just the fingers going back, gently pressing the fingers back, just to give you a little bit of an extra stretch through the fingers and the palm. And bring it back. And then same thing going forward, pressing down. Good. And bringing back. Good. Let's do it again, pressing back. And pressing down. Good. Same on the other side. Make your wrist nice and flat, just the fingers. Using your other hand, if you like, you don't have to. Gently pressing your fingers down a little bit further. I can see a comment about carpal tunnel stretches. Yes, I'll show you some at the end. Fingers in the other direction, keeping that wrist nice and flat, pressing down gently. Same thing again. Bring it back, pressing down gently. And forward, not the wrist, just the fingers, pressing down gently. Good. Okay, last thing here, hands together, palms straight. What you're gonna do is you're gonna keep your elbows down first, so it's sort of like a prayer position. From here, you're gonna drop the arms down and bring the elbows out to the side into a bit of a wrist stretch here, pressing your palms together. The higher your elbows go and the lower your wrist goes, the more of a stretch you feel. But of course, be careful if you got carpal tunnel. Okay. And then we're gonna do the same thing, flipping the palm over like so. So the back of the hand together, this time reverse, elbows start high, the back of the hands are lower. And then what you're gonna do is drop the elbows down and bring the hands upwards into a stretch to the other side of your wrist, pressing the back of your wrist together, dropping the elbows to get a deeper stretch. Good, and relax. Good, okay. We're out of time, but I'll show you the carpal tunnel stuff really quick. If you need to go, don't worry, I will see you next class. Thank you for joining us. If you want to stay for the carpal tunnel stretch, stay for a couple minutes and I'll show you the carpal tunnel stuff, okay? If you have any other question you want to ask, feel free to drop me an email. You can email the info@parkinson.bc.ca email. Thanks, Donna. Bye.